So I did a little bit of load development for 223 over Thanksgiving. What I'm working with is some Everglades 223 62 grain version 2. There's a version 1 also. This is the version 1 is supposed to be more of a plinking grade, which I'm a plinker anyway. To date, I've never been able to get any decent groups out of my 55 grains. And I tried some 68s and had better luck, but they're more expensive bullets. So I'm looking for an inexpensive bullet. And I said, well, I'm going to try something in between weight-wise. And the powders we got are BLC2, CFE 223, and Varget. All pretty common powders. Varget's probably the most popular. And as usual, I did my little color coding system, which I've used, starting from yellow, which I marked with black stripes so I can know my brass from anybody else's on the ground. And I added a orange highlighter, green Sharpie, blue Sharpie, red, and black. And for each powder, I got a B for BLC, C for CFE 223, and of course V for Varget. And I stepped through shooting each one. Let's see, I got 5 loads of each, which meant I have 10 extra spots in the mid load of CFE and Varget I used for verifying my zero on my scope before I got started. Just something to foul the barrel a little bit and get going. But I actually had pretty decent luck this time. My 22.5 grain, my 22.5, I was just all over the place. At 23, I had a okay group, and at 23.5, I was spread out a little bit. It was all high as far as my point of impact versus view. At 24 grain, I got a group that was 1.6, and I am not a marksman, but that is a good group for me. And that's, to that point, that's the best group I think I've ever really shot. With the CFE 223, started at 24, worked my way up to 26. And everything continued high. Of course, I was completely off the paper over here at the 24. Move the scope down, or drop down 8 clicks on the scope. And I ended up with a 1.7 inch group with the CFE 223. The barrel is a Ballistic Advantage Hansen barrel, which is supposed to be, good for below 1 MOA. Now my Varget is where I got a little bit excited for me. I ended up with a 1 inch group at 24.5. And except for this outlier here on the 24 grain, that was pretty good too. I think where I'm going to load at is 24. This was a 34-degree day when I was doing this, and I cannot help but imagine that on a 70 or 80-degree day I'm going to build more pressure. But that group, throwing out the flyer, was 1.2, and then that was a 1. I think for loading a bulk of ammo, just to have to on hand to shoot, I will probably go with that 24.5 grain of Varget. And for the CFE, I would like to spend some more time with it, but I've got a 25 grains of CFE 223. Get my tongue untangled here in a minute. Then the BLC 1.6. And I think if I get to spend more time behind the trigger, I may be able to improve on those numbers. But those are good loads for me for right now. I started off looking at some 60 grain Hornady data, and I looked on Hodgkin's website, and they had a 62 grain. I think it was a it was a Swift Scirocco. I grabbed the data for that, and I grabbed some data from Lyman, and I kind of overlaid all those and picked my numbers. Honestly, I was really expecting, with my experience with 223 and the 68 grain, I was really expecting to see some pressure signs, which I saw pressure on none of them. And I was using a 2.250 overall length, which seated just short of the cannular, but I had plenty of throat. I had already checked distance to lands, and I had I think at least another 20 thousandths to work with, and I've been doing 2.25 loads previous to this with 55 grain Hornady, FMJs, and I forget, there was another brand I got in 55 grain. And I've always been about the 2.5 inch range since I had the Hansen barrel, the Ballistic Advantage. Prior to that, on the other barrel I had, I was about 3.5 inch groups. So yeah, I've gotten better at 100 yards. I'm enthused to have this 1.0 because minute of angle is the holy grail that we start for, and then try to tighten up from there. So I'm happy with that. I may do a little bit of tinkering up or down from that load in warmer weather, but for right now, I think it's going to be 24. Okay, hope y'all had a great weekend, and we shall talk to you soon.